Yes, hello to everyone. I welcome you all to this new daily news digest session. Today is 26th of December, and I have two articles from the Indian Express which I wish to discuss with you all. The first one basically is about the rupee, which has hit an all-time low, and real effective exchange rate soars to an all-time high. Let's try and understand this particular topic. First of all, what needs to be remembered by students is real effective exchange rate and its difference compared to nominal effective exchange rate. They've already been asked by UPSC once in a previous year question in 2021. So this is one topic which holds a lot of significance. As we are aware that rupee is hitting fresh lows against the US dollar, but the exchange rate has scaled at an all-time high in real effective terms. The REER index of the rupee touched a record 108.14 in November, and this strengthened by 4.5% during the calendar year, according to the latest RBI data. What is this REER? It measures the rupee's value vis-a-vis not only the dollar, but other global currencies as well. In this case, it is a weighted average of the rupee's exchange rate against a basket of 40 currencies of countries that account about 88% of India's annual exports and imports. REER also is adjusted for inflation. That is the difference between NEER or nominal effective exchange rate and REER, that is real effective exchange rate, because REER also gets adjusted for inflation differentials between India and each of the trading partners. The rupees REER basically has 2015-16 as its base year, and currency weights derives from the shares of the individual countries in total foreign trade fell from 105.32 to 99.03 in April. But since then, they have been on a appreciating front and have climbed to approximately 108.14 in November this year. What are the reasons for the rise in REER? The main reasons for this divergence are rupee's simultaneous weakening and strengthening, and this has to do with the dollar's behavior as well over the past 3 months, particularly after the election of President Donald Trump, who has won a landslide victory in the US last month. Between September and December, the dollar index futures, which is a gauge of the dollar's relative value relative to a basket of six currencies. What are these six currencies? Euro, Japanese yen, British pound, Canadian dollar, Swedish krona, and Swiss franc. With March 1973 as the base year, has gone up from 99 to 108 as well. So these are numbers which you may not discuss in detail, but you have to understand as to what this concept of REER is and why this particular thing is going to hurt our exports. Rupee value above 100 as per REER signifies overvaluation, an exchange rate not falling enough to offset higher domestic inflation. To that extent, it is overvalued, making imports cheaper but exports less competitive. Will benefit, the importers will benefit from this, but the exporters are going to suffer because they'll make the exports less competitive. In other words, the rupee isn't weakening as much as the dollar is strengthening against all currencies. The dollar is strengthening because of Trump's public pronouncement favoring universal tariff hikes, deficit financed income tax cuts, and mass deportation of illegal immigrants. So these are the reasons why the dollar has been gaining in terms of its value. Finally, they are also expected to drive up inflation and in turn force the US Federal Reserve to keep monetary policy tight. Tight monetary policy basically means higher rates of interest. Apart from this, the another aspect which needs to be remembered is assuming the rupee was fairly valued in 2015-16, because this is the base year when the REER was set to 100, any value above 100 signifies overvaluation and the exchange rate not falling enough to offset higher domestic inflation. The rupee is to that extent highly overvalued today, making imports into India cheaper and exports from the country less competitive. It probably also explains why the RBI is now allowing the rupee to fall, at least against the dollar. That is the activity which RBI has recently done. Now I am discussing a question with you all that has a potential of being asked here. With reference to the real effective exchange rate, consider the following statements. The REER measures the rupee's value against only the US dollar. A REER index value above 100 indicates that the currency is overvalued. An overvalued rupee makes imports cheaper but reduces the competitiveness of exports. The REER adjusts for inflation differentials between India and its trading partners. First statement in this particular question is wrong because the REER measures the rupee's value not just against the US dollar, but a set of 40 different currencies. The rest three statements are correct. That is, rear index value above 100 indicates that the currency is overvalued. An overvalued rupee makes imports cheaper but reduces the competitiveness of exports. The rear adjusts for inflation differentials between India and its trading partners. All these three statements are correct. Moving to the next article now. The article basically is on the no detention policy, and scrapping it will aggravate the problems. Let's try and understand as to what this is. The words elimination and examination are almost intertwined. And recently we've had the Right to Education Act 2009, which underlined a different approach. What it did was it scrapped out the humiliation of elimination from the body politic of examination. It came out with a no detention policy for students up to class 8th. That was innovative in a country where success is often measured in terms of examination scores. After 15 years, much of the radical approach has largely been diluted. And from the next academic year, class 5 and class 8 students in government schools will be held back or eliminated according to their performance. That is, no detention is once again out of the picture. The move is an extension of the amendment introduced by the Centre to the Right to Education Act in 2019, when it left the issue of detention to the discretion of state government. No detention policy was premised on the theory that detention led to school dropouts. The right to education was passed when the dropout rate for students was 42.5%. It is very high. Notably, for the SCs and STs, the percentage was much higher at 51.2 and 56.8%. In 2024, the central government annuls the NDP, that is the no detention policy. The dropout rate already came down to 12.6%, according to the latest data from UDSCE. UDSCE basically is an agency which provides such data. If the decreasing dropout rate stands in favor of NDP, a 2023 report by ASER, Annual Status of Education report, which showed that only a fourth of the enrolled students in the age group of 14 to 18 can fluently read a class 2 level text, vouchers for the contrary, because that is a very terrifying data from ASER. However, the right to education was not all about no detention policy. It was envisioned that the students who failed to pass the exam would be given special care by teachers to achieve the required level of learning. However, the question arises that do we have that special care infrastructure for the same? Because as per the Ministry of Education data, the government schools, both at the primary and elementary levels, are grappling with a shortage of approximately 8.4 lakh teachers. Recently, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Jayant Chaudhary, he cited a few reasons for dropout, including first, students' lack of interest and their inability to cope up with their studies. Second is, he also said that this is bound to affect the interest of the students, mostly of those who belong to the marginalized communities. The imagination of innovative education and universal access as proposed by the National Education Policy does not go with the narrative of elimination and detention. The article basically is trying to suggest that the states needs to rethink on its no detention policy because it has had its benefits as well. Now I'm sharing a question which can be asked from this particular topic related to no detention policy. The question is, the Right to Education Act 2009 introduced the no detention policy for students up to class 8. Which of the following statements about no detention policy and its implications is correct? First, the NDP was introduced to improve teacher training in government schools. The NDP was based on the theory that detention leads to higher school dropout rates. Central government never amended the Right to Education Act to allow states to decide on detention policies. The dropout rates of SCs and ST students were lower than the national average when the RTE was introduced. The correct statement to this is the statement B. The NDP was based on the theory that detention leads to higher school dropout rates. That is the reason why NDP was brought. It was not brought to improve teacher training in government schools. The central government amended the RTE Act in 2019 to allow states to decide on detention policies. So the correct answer to this is B. I hope this is all from my side. I hope this was a fruitful session. Thank you so much.
Hello all. Today we are going to discuss some of the important articles of the Hindu. The very first article that we are going to discuss is related to the Ken-Betwa link project launched by Pradhan Mantri Manmohan Singh yesterday. तो दिस आर्टिकल इज मेनली इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर योर प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. तो यहाँ पे कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन है दैट यू कैन नोट इट डाउन. द वेरी फर्स्ट जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है दैट इज रिलेटेड टू इन विच रीजन एंड व्हाई वी आर लिंकिंग दिस रिवर और इंटरलिंकिंग क्यों कर रहे हैं. तो ये किया जा रहा है इन ऑर्डर टू सॉल्व द वाटर क्राइसिस और वाटर प्रॉब्लम ऑफ द बुंदेलखंड रीजन ऑफ द उत्तर प्रदेश एंड मध्य प्रदेश. ये जो बुंदेलखंड रीजन है उत्तर प्रदेश और मध्य प्रदेश में फैला हुआ है. Second information that is related to the overall cost of this project is 45,000 crore rupees. And there is another important information, that is the major river valley project of India, where based on the vision of Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar. तो ये तीन इन्फॉर्मेशन आप नोट डाउन कर सकते हैं. प्लस यू ऑल्सो नीड टू नो अबाउट द सेंट्रल वाटर कमीशन की ये कमीशन क्या है, क्या करती है. एज वी नो इट इज ए टेक्निकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो काम करती है वाटर कंजर्वेशन से रिलेटेड अपने देश में. There is another article in the editorial page and it's talking about the Nagapattinam में journey to resilience. तो ये आर्टिकल जनरली बात करता है जो सुनामी आया था 2004 में, उससे रिलेटेड है. And this highlights ki how a disaster always serves a harsh reminder to nature's overwhelming power and humanity vulnerability. कहीं ना कहीं जो disaster होता है that is overwhelmingly powerful and humanity is always vulnerable to disaster if there is not proper preparedness to mitigate the impact of that disaster. तो ये जो disaster हुआ था that took place on 26th December 2004, and the Indian Ocean tsunami delivered the unparalleled wave of destruction. Among the hardest hit area was the ये जो Nagapattinam area है तमिलनाडु का, that was the hardest hit. तो after this tsunami, how this area developed the resilience, this second part is all about that. So we are going to skip this part because we need to have a national perspective. तो जो ये सुनामी था इट्स एक्सपोज्ड क्रिटिकल गैप इन द इंडिया डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट फ्रेमवर्क, और कहीं ना कहीं इट वाज द कैटलिस्ट दैट catalyst in the enactment of Disaster Management Act 2005. So what is this Disaster Management Act 2005? So through this act we created different institutions at the different level of the country. For example, there is National Disaster Management Authority, State Disaster Management Authority, and District Disaster Management Authority. तो जो different type of organization हमने create किया, the purpose behind that was to prepare tailored local need based disaster management plan. और जो जितने भी phases होते हैं disaster management cycle का, we need to incorporate all those phases in our management of the disaster. तो दूसरी यहाँ पे इंफॉर्मेशन दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट इज रिलेटेड टू इट्स टॉकिंग अबाउट कि हाउ एडवांस टेक्नोलॉजी हैज शेप्ड आवर ओवरऑल डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. तो यहाँ पे बात की गई है इंडियन सुनामी अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम जो 2007 में हमने लॉन्च किया था. देन आफ्टर GIS मैपिंग की बात की गई है. Artificial intelligence driven risk assessment and mobile application have enhanced preparedness. तो कहीं ना कहीं now we have more access to data related to disaster that may be come और जो forthcoming disaster है, and this is helping overall management of the disaster, चाहे वो citizens level पे हो या फिर वो authority level पे हो. फिर यहाँ पे एक दूसरी इंपॉर्टेंट बात की गई है कि पोस्ट डिजास्टर फोकस हैव शिफ्ट फ्रॉम द मियर मैनेज डैमेज असेसमेंट टू पोस्ट डिजास्टर नीड असेसमेंट. पहले हम क्या करते थे, हम जनरली डैमेज को एसेस करते हैं, बट नाउ वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन कि व्हाट इज द नीड आफ्टर द डिजास्टर इन अ पर्टिकुलर एरिया. हम उस पर ज्यादा फोकस कर रहे हैं. यहाँ पे कुछ ग्लोबल एक्सपीरियंस की बात की गई है जिसमें हैती और चिली की बात की गई है. तो हैती में एक 2010 में एक अर्थक्वेक आया था, एंड द लैक ऑफ इंश्योरेंस एंड द अंडर डेवलप्ड डिजास्टर रिस्पॉन्स फ्रेमवर्क लेड टू प्रोलॉन्ग रिकवरी प्रोसेस in the Haiti. यहाँ पे there was no insurance and there was lack of proper disaster management framework. Because of that, this disaster recovery was very prolonged. On the other hand, Chile has insurance related things and they have effective disaster management framework, and because of this that they very fast recovered from the disaster. तो ये दो केस स्टडीज हैं, वी नीड टू लर्न फ्रॉम द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ द चिली. फिर यहाँ पे जापान की बात की गई है कि फर्दर कैसे डिमोन्स्ट्रेट करता है वैल्यू ऑफ प्रीएम्प्टिव मेजर्स. कहीं ना कहीं जापान इज वेरी यू कैन से कि जापान जो है वहाँ डिजास्टर की चांसेस बहुत ज्यादा होती है, वेरियस फॉर्म ऑफ डिजास्टर. तो वहाँ पे जो प्रिएम्प्टिव उनकी मेजर्स होती है, बिकॉज ऑफ दैट दे आर एबल टू मिटिगेट द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ डिजास्टर. तो वी ऑल्सो नीड टू लर्न फ्रॉम दैट lesson. We need to learn the lesson from the Japan. In the last part of the article, it's talking about ki empowering at risk communities through education and guidance is essential to prepare them to potential disaster. कहीं ना कहीं लोकल लेवल पे जो अर्ली रिस्पॉन्स आता है तो कहीं ना कहीं वो कम्युनिटी के द्वारा ही आता है. तो इफ वी आर empowering the community through education and guidance, that community is going to play a very critical and very important role in mitigating the impact of disaster. So this is the basic takeaway of this article कि after 2004 tsunami, what lesson India learned from that tsunami. तो ये पॉइंट्स आप नोट डाउन कर सकते हैं, मेंस के एग्जाम के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है. Second article, this editorial is also related to tsunami. So we are leaving this article because आपने एक comprehensively कर लिया, तो I don't think you need to go after the all the related articles. In the text and context page, there is one article: US and China renew science and technology agreement. This article is not very is important to only for that reason कि this new agreement is going to shape the current geopolitics. तो because of that you need to know it. तो पहला इसमें क्या आपको जानना है, द एग्रीमेंट वाज फर्स्ट साइन इन on January 31, 1979, or at that time China was considered as a junior partner, but now China is China is at the level of US when technology is concerned. So what change this agreement is going to make it is important for you to know. तो यहाँ पे क्या होगा, it will facilitate joint research, mobility between the countries for students and scientists, encourage institutional cooperation, and set up bilateral research center. So as we know, during the COVID period or first term of Donald Trump, the relationship between China and US was relationship between China and US got deteriorated. तो कहीं ना कहीं वहां पे एक रिसिफ्ट की जरूरत है, रिसेट की जरूरत है. तो थ्रू दिस एग्रीमेंट द रिसेट इज कहीं ना कहीं आ रहा है. तो इसकी जो जिस्ट है, अगर आप इसको भी पढ़ते हो तो दैट इज गोइंग टू हेल्प यू. जो पहला है कि द यूएस एंड चाइना रिन्यूड देयर एग्रीमेंट ऑन कोऑपरेशन इन साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी फॉर 5 years with new amendments addressing research safety and data reciprocity की बात की गई है. और इसके साथ साथ यहाँ पे एक कंसर्न ये भी है कि कहीं ना कहीं जो डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प का एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है, दैट इज गोइंग टू स्क्रूटनाइज द एग्रीमेंट मोर क्लोजली, और it recognized the importance of maintaining cooperation with China, particularly to monitor the management China technological advancement. As we all know, China is developing significantly in the technological area. तो यूएस कैनॉट आइसोलेट इटसेल्फ फ्रॉम द चाइना. तो ये कोऑपरेशन जरूरी है, यूएस को भी ये पता है. बिकॉज ऑफ दैट दिस एग्रीमेंट इज हैपनिंग, एंड कहीं ना कहीं थ्रू दिस एग्रीमेंट जियो पॉलिटिक्स पे थोड़ा बहुत इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा. तो यू जस्ट नीड टू कीप इन माइंड कि यस, ए न्यू डेवलपमेंट टुक प्लेस बिटवीन द चाइना एंड यूएसए. आप कहीं पे भी इसको एक पॉइंट बना के मेंस में लिख सकते हैं. देयर इज अनदर आर्टिकल दैट इज व्हाट इज ऑस्ट्रेलियाज ऑनलाइन सेफ्टी अमेंडमेंट बिल. So as we all know, we have previously discussed that Australia is making a new amendments. Through that, access to social media will be restricted to the children under 16 years of the age. तो इसमें क्या है, तो यहाँ पे जो पहला इंपॉर्टेंट टेक अवे ये है कि हाउ विल द बैन बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड. तो इस पे क्या है कि प्रोवाइडर्स जो होते हैं उनको दो एज रिस्ट्रिक्टेड सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म के जो प्रोवाइडर्स हैं उन पे ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी डाल दी गई है ऑस्ट्रेलिया के द्वारा कि दे नीड टू रेस्ट्रिक्ट सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म टू यूजर्स हु आर अंडर 16 ईयर ऑफ एज. इफ दे आर फेलिंग टू डू इट, देयर विल बी ए प्रोविजन ऑफ पेनल्टी, सिविल पेनल्टी ऑफ $49.5 million. तो ये एक पेनल्टी की वहां पे भी प्रोविजन है. क्या कंसर्न है इसमें, तो कंसर्न इज रिलेटेड टू द प्राइवेसी रिस्क. तो उसके लिए द प्रपोज लॉ विल एस्टेब्लिश प्राइवेसी ऑब्लिगेशन ऑन द सर्विस प्रोवाइडर, और penalty may be imposed under the Privacy Act 1988 if they are not able to protect the privacy of the user. तो लास्ट पार्ट में इस आर्टिकल में है कि सोशल मीडिया हार्मफुल टू चिल्ड्रन. तो कहीं ना कहीं जो रिसर्च अभी इनिशियली हुआ है, दैट रिसर्च इंडिकेट दैट द सोशल मीडिया में इम्पैक्ट चिल्ड्रंस मेंटल हेल्थ. तो ये इम्पैक्ट तो है इन चिल्ड्रंस पे. तो क्या वी शुड पुट ए कंपनी ऑल टुगेदर बैन की नहीं, हम एसएससी नहीं देंगे. तो इसके निगेटिव यहाँ इसके अगेंस्ट है एक आइडिया दैट इज कि दैट ए बैन इज टू ब्लंट एन इंस्ट्रूमेंट टू एड्रेस रिस्क इफेक्टिवली वी better regulate it in some different way instead of putting a altogether ban on the use of social media to children under 16 year of age. तो ये आर्टिकल इंपॉर्टेंट है मेंस के लिए. इंडिया इज ऑल्सो सफरिंग विद द सेम प्रॉब्लम. लार्जेस्ट मेजोरिटी ऑफ आवर एडल्ट्स और यू कैन से चिल्ड्रंस आर इन्वॉल्व इन सोशल मीडिया. तो कहीं ना कहीं हमारे प्रोडक्टिविटी पे इन फ्यूचर की जो प्रोडक्टिविटी होगी वहां पे इम्पैक्ट करेगा. So we also need to learn a lesson from this initiative of Australia and make such some sort of regulation to regulate the use of social media by the children of our country. So this is all from my side, and rest of the article will be discussed by the Gaurav sir. Thank you all.
Good morning and welcome to today's edition of Daily News Digest. Here today we will be discussing some of the important articles from today's edition of The Hindu. So let's begin. So the very first article is about the free movement regime, which center had suspended few months back. So let's see what are the important takeaways from this article. So month after announcing the suspension of free movement regime along the Myanmar border, the Union Ministry has brought in fresh protocol. Earlier, it was a protocol was not brought out. Now, protocol has been brought out to regulate the movement of people living within 10 kilometers to on the either side of largely unfenced international border. So, what you need to understand from this article that what is free movement regime? So, because there is a contiguous zone between some of the northeastern state and the Myanmar. There is a ethnic affinity between Myanmar and Indian state. So people and affinity across the racial affinity also. So people used to travel across Myanmar and Indian states freely. So it has a cultural region, it has ethnic region for that, which FMR had been going and this for years, and it dates back to many centuries earlier also because they share a genetic or ethnic or you can go cultural relation. So Home Ministry, the Honorable Minister of Home Minister Amit Shah had announced on February 8 that FMR had been scrapped to ensure internal security of the country and to maintain the demographic structure of the northeastern states. However, the new guidelines indicate that the regime has not been done away, but a stricter regulation such as reducing the range of the free movement to 10 kilometers from the earlier 16 kilometers have been introduced. So we can infer from this that it has not done away completely, but a stricter norms has been brought out from the earlier regime when it was like 16, you can move around the 16 kilometer of the either boundary of the international boundary. Now it has been reduced to 10 kilometer. But then thing is why FMR, this stricter norms have been brought out. We all know that ethnic strife has been going on in Manipur for quite some time, and it is alleged that this free movement regime and people used to come across from the Myanmar and used to take part in these ethnic strikes. So center tried to muzzle this. And now moving to next section, February 16 order by the Manipur governor, regarding temporary suspension of FMR along the Manipur border said MHA government of India has recommended for scrapping of FMR to MEA. So the Ministry of Home Affairs has passed this duty, passed this duty to the MEA, that is Ministry of External Affairs, to brought in more changes. Because it is a sort of international affair also, because it is between the two countries also. So MEA also comes into the fray. So now, what are the stakes of some Indian states? The scrapping of FMR was opposed by Nagaland and Mizoram, whereas Manipur has supported this because in Manipur, some years, this ethnic strife have been going on, and the Manipur Chief Minister and Biren Singh has attributed the ongoing ethnic violence, which has claimed more than 250 lives, since May 23 to the unregulated movement of people across the border, which what we have talked earlier also. So now, what is this FMR? Let's see what is the history of this FMR. The FMR came into existence in 1968, so this date become very important. Uh, as the people on either side of the border have familiar and ethnic ties, the territorial limit of the free movement then was 40 kilometer, and like in 1968 it was 40 kilometer, which is reduced to 16 kilometer in 2004, and additional regulation were enforced in 2016. According to new guidelines, a resident crossing from the India to Myanmar will be given border pass by the Assam Rifle. You should know that Assam Rifle board guards this Indo-Myanmar border, so it's become important. Then there is a mentioning of like India share like once 1643 km border with Myanmar, and which states share border with Myanmar. It's become very important. And here it is mentioned that Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, and Mizoram, whereas Arunachal Pradesh has the longest border with Myanmar. And now new rules, what the new rule says. So for entry into India from Myanmar, individuals will have to report at a designated borders crossing across the points and filler forms. So some sort of regulations have been put in place, and there has been created 8 pilot entry and exit point, which will be made functional immediately, and also 14 entry points will be activated on the procurement and installation of biometric mechanism machines, and mainly this registration of the people coming across the border will be biometrically registered, so to ensure better compliance. So this is all from this article. Now moving to next article, it was in news in first page also. So but it is a bit different. So Samajwadi Party hails Ken-Betwa project, whereas Congress flag this project, citing ecological impact. So we all know that our honorable Prime Minister laid the stone of the Ken-Betwa project at the Khajuraho. It's become very important that where it was laid. It was laid in the Khajuraho, where then you should also know that what are the origin of the Ken and Betwa. But apart from it, we should understand what it ecological impact it will have, what ecological imprint it will leave. So it is feared that this Ken-Betwa river linking project, for which stone the inauguration has happened, poses a serious threat to biodiversity reach Panna Tiger Reserve in the Madhya Pradesh. So it has like, you can always if challenges are asked or in such questions, you can mention these things. Panna is the most remarkable success story of revival, as by 2009 its tiger population had been completely wiped out, so that it was no animal in wild, tiger in wild, and reintroduction was done, and now it is has a prospering tiger population, which in up to like 90 plus tigers right now. So it is being alleged that it will submerge, this project will submerge 10% of the core areas of tiger reserves. Not only not only tigers will be impacted, but also other animals like vultures will be lost also. So it is like ecological impact of mm, this project, and you should always club it, this sort of ecological impact to the you can say like ecological impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, EIA done or not, what is the EIA said. So you can look for these documents also. So let's look what question can be formed from today's edition of the first article that was discussed. It is like, with reference to free movement regime along the India-Myanmar border, consider the following statement. Though the FMR was introduced in 1968 to allow free movement of people within a 40 km radius, ये तो सही statement है. The territorial limit of free movement under the FMR was reduced to 10 km in 2004 and further reduced to 7 km in 2016. This is incorrect statement. Nagaland and Mizoram and Manipur are only state with FMR regime. So it's also not correct, because Arunachal Pradesh also have. And so only statement 1 is correct. Then there is also subjective question can be formed because it is part of your internal security also. Discuss the challenge and implications of the free movement regime along the India-Myanmar border in context of internal security and cross-border ethnic ties. Highlight the measure introduced in new protocol to address this concern. So you can always you can write this question and send your answers to the KSG, which will be evaluated. Okay, so you should always try to write answers on these sort of questions which appear in the newspaper. Okay, so this is all from my side from today's edition of Daily News at Digest. I hope you liked it, and we look forward to meet you tomorrow. Thank you.